Hello, this is T-Mac.
And I'm Ike from IkesOutdoors.com. We're here today to give you a few tips on rattling. We're not rattling experts by any means. We've rattled in a few deer, but there's some things that we do that are a little bit different than what other people do that that we think can help people out. So that's what we're doing, basically, just trying to give you a few tips. Tyson's got a really good tip. I'll let him give that to you here in a minute. But what I like to do, the biggest tip that I'm going to give you guys is about how quick you do your sequences. If you watch real deer out in the wild, unless it's full rut and they're just basically really getting it on, I see a lot of people rattle, and they'll rattle like that. They'll rattle non-stop. That's not how deer fight if you observe them. A lot of deer, when they do, they'll hook their horns together and they're pushing back and forth, and then they're slowly doing those. And that's mostly sparring, you know, that's what most of the deer are going to be doing. Even when you get two big monster bucks, they'll do a lot of hitting together, and then they're pushing. They're not going to be sitting there doing that. So the tip I got for you guys is to slow your sequences down and imagine two deer fighting. Put those things together and really judge by the deer in your area. If you got some monster bucks, then you can make some noise. If you got a bunch of little bucks, you're not going to want to make a whole lot of noise. You know, little bucks ain't going to make that kind of noise. So what I always do is I bring them together and I'll turn them slowly. I'll just show you my rattling sequences, what I'll do. That's about it to my rattling sequence. Now I might get a little bit more active when the rut goes, but I think some people get carried away. So my tip for you guys is basically just slow your sequence down and imagine two deer fighting, and I think that'll help you a little bit bring in more deer.
Like Ike said, around here, around where we hunt, it's you're in Missouri and I'm in Oklahoma, and the buck to doe ratio is not even by anywhere close. We have a lot more does than bucks, so they're not really going to get after it hardcore over a doe because there's just so many to choose from. And what I see in the woods mostly is a lot of sparring, which is a little, you know, tickling. And like I said, usually when they hit, there's a little bit of a pause, and then they're kind of twisting around and even rubbing them bases together, them beads, you know. Kicking your, you know, get the ground into it, because they're pushing. It's more like a shoving match than anything. Who's bigger than who's got the most stamina, and you know, kick them leaves, and you can make a little noise. And I like to rattle in a real thick area, so, and preferably from the ground. Now in the tree stand, I might do that, but if they get anywhere where I can see them, I stop because I don't want them looking up. But like I said, in a real thick area, got lots of ground cover, really get into it, scrape it, you know, really. You might be giving a pause and kicking around, we're shoving each other back and forth. And kicking around a little more, and then done. And then I'll sit, I don't know, 10 minutes, throwing a few grunts, you know, winners, telling everybody, hey, I won, and this is a...
Who's next?
Yeah, who's next, and this is a great way to make a hunt from a boring hunt to where you just kind of hunt to just really interesting. And then I've had Ike rattle me in a buck before, and he wasn't the biggest buck,
but
he came in there like, hey, like he was romp stomping the biggest buck of the woods, and I think I fed him a 50 caliber ball for it. So rattling is very effective, and I guess, you know, that can work.
I've never seen deer do that.
But around here, with the buck to doe ratio we got, I think you're just a little bit, we're going to be a little bit more successful.
That's the tip that Tyson does that I wasn't aware of. He'll rub those beads together down on the bottom. And that sounds really good to me, and it sounds really like realistic, like a two deer fight.
Usually deer get into each other, a lot of the times the horns aren't intertangled. They're just inside each other, so the beating on their horns is what's rubbing together.
Yeah,
and
imagine they're head to head more than anything.
Like a ram head to head, and those are, you know, and
cat. You're rattling a cat.
I got a cat come in. But I break out your rattling horns. It makes the hunt a lot more interesting.
Yeah, a couple other things, just for guys who don't have a lot of knowledge on rattling, is most of the time the buck's going to come in downwind of you. He's going to try to circle around you and smell those deer that's going on. So this works best in a two-man team. You get one guy rattling upwind, and you set your shooter downwind of him, and in a route where you think that buck's going to try to come up and slip on your setup. But if you have to do it by yourself, be looking downwind. Be paying attention to the wind direction. Be paying attention to behind you. So the big bucks are going to circle downwind and try to get a good scent and smell what's going on in that field. And like Tyson said, rub those beads together. When I do this, if I'm in a tree or near a tree, I'll rub a tree before I'll even start to make it sound like that dominant buck is rubbing that tree with his head to kind of initiate a fight with a smaller buck. I'll stomp the ground. I'll kick leaves up. When I'm on the ground doing this, I'll actually get down and rattle on the ground like that. It'll kick leaves up and make a lot of noise at the same time. You want to keep your movement to a minimum and really scan the horizon, but deer make a lot of noise when they're fighting. So keep that in mind. Make it as realistic as you can. And I suggest finding some videos on YouTube and stuff like that, and try to watch your deer fighting and imitate that.
And one thing about is this kind of tactic as far as rattling goes, if you're on the ground in a brushy area, you can get away with a little more movement, you know. And if you're cold, I guarantee you, rattling will warm you up.
It's true,
it's
yeah.
something to do. Just it makes you feel like you're more part of the hunt. And when that buck comes in, you've rattled him in. There ain't nothing like it. Ain't nothing like it.
You know, one of the things, to quote Roger Ragland, deer calls ain't gonna work unless you use them. So use your rattling horns, use your grunt calls. Deer grunt all the time. Sulfur grunts. I've seen deer grunt at all times through the season. So use your call, use your horns, use your grunt calls, and you know, it breaks up the monotony of the hunt, and it'll also you know, may drag deer in there to you.
It also improves your chances, I believe, firmly, that being, you know, especially in areas that aren't pressured a lot, the high pressure areas. If you get into an area where there ain't a lot of pressure on them deer, that kind of stuff is going to work even better, and it's going to be amazing at what you can pull in with horns and grunt.
But those are just a few tips that we've got for you on rattling. You know, these may not apply to your area, may not apply to your situation, but we hope you can take these tips and hope you can maybe rattle in the deer this year. Like I said, they ain't gonna work unless you try them. And this is deer that some sheds that I've got. I like real horns. They're big, they're bulky, but I like real horns over a rattling back or some synthetic horns. So get out there and shed hunt, or kill you a decent buck that you just ain't gonna quite have mounted. This is a good way to show them off too. Carry this on your pack. When people ask about your rattling horns, you say, "Yeah, I killed that buck." You know, a lot more people see my rattling horns than see the ones I've got hanging on the wall.
Me, I got a rattle bag. Either way, I think I like the horns, especially because of the beating at the bottom, and they're just, I think they're more realistic. But what they got nowadays in rattle bags, those really take up less space if you want to go that route. But
and this is the one of the nice things about having two of us is we don't share the exact same opinions on everything that we're using. I don't use a rattle bag. T-Mac uses a rattle bag, so you know, that's just go with what fits for you. I like the real horns, so.
I hope you enjoyed this little segment on rattling, and got any questions or comments, contact us at ikesoutdoors.com.
Appreciate you watching.
I like good times, good wine, good smoke, and a 5-piece bed. And I can't help it, it's just